Hello. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Gabby. Great to have you with us here tonight. I hope that the lockdown has treated you well, and I'll probably ask you a few questions and exactly how that's played into your business lives, as well as your lives outside of business. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what's been keeping you busy. So I don't have that many questions, and we'll keep it fairly fluid. But just to set the scene, if I could ask you both to introduce yourself, talk a little about your kind of professional backgrounds, what it is that's keeping you busy, and any other weird and wonderful things. I'll start with you, Gabby, if that's okay.
Cool. So I am Gabriela Hersham. I founded a business called Huckle Tree. We launched in 2014, and it started off as a kind of pure play co-working business, but over the years has grown into a kind of workspace accelerator, as we called it, and now a home for entrepreneurship, where workspace is one of our products, but actually we have lots more products that touch on acceleration, education, corporate innovation, everything that ends with Mishon, apparently. And just do a lot of work, I think, in the tech ecosystem, helping to bring about equality, diversity, inclusion. So I hope I'm kind of painting a bit of a good picture, but that's the world that we operate in.
Great, very interesting. I'll come back to dwell on some of those in a sec. And Jonathan, same again. You're speaking from Berlin, is that right?
I'm in London.
Okay.
I'm in London. I've been traveling between London, Berlin, and Amsterdam the last few weeks. But yeah, my background, I started a business in Berlin in 2006, and that was a residential investment business focused on buying old buildings in Berlin and renovating them and then renting them out. And that expanded a few years ago into Amsterdam, so I do the same thing there. I'm actually based there in Amsterdam, doing the same thing.
Great. Well, look, I'm going to take it in turns and ask a few questions each, and then, yeah, we'll keep the questions flowing. But Gabby, if I start with you, and I guess co-working and flexible offices is something that I know a bit about. Actually, my business is in the flexible office world as well. And, since 2013, 2014, it's definitely completely changed how we work. And, there are a number of different places where you can rent a desk or rent a suite or rent a whole floor. And with Huckletree, and I've been to a lot of your spaces, and I think they're excellent spaces. You mentioned about how you are different to other workspace operators with all of your different kind of arms and angles. So why is it that you've approached it with all of these different augmented pieces, and what is it about it that makes it so different?
So it's funny, I guess it kind of started when we opened the doors to our first space in 2014. We were very adamant on curating the community and focusing on the tech ecosystem from day one. And it wasn't, I guess it was part because we felt that would give us a USP in the market, but part also because we were very passionate about that ecosystem and really wanted to build a community from the ground up within the tech ecosystem. And then it's just grown and it's taken its own legs, truthfully. So, over the past sort of 5-6 years, the business has grown, the team's grown, and our understanding of the ecosystem and how we can help and add value has grown. And I think now, that's why we see Huckletree as, it's not a lot of the workspaces are, they welcome members within any industry, and that's great and that serves them. But we've had this focus on the tech ecosystem, and I guess that has just served us and remained a differentiator for us and allowed us to go quite deep into that area. So as I was mentioning before, acceleration, education are all words which I think mean a lot to the tech ecosystem and which we've been able to have a right to play in.
Got it. And so the businesses that are residents in some of your spaces, you actually go on to support them, be that through investment, mentoring, coaching, things like that. Do you have a specific sector or a specific area that you over-index in amongst all these businesses you support? And what is it that you're really looking for in any of these businesses?
So it's a really good question. We don't, in terms of the sector, like the focuses of the member business, we don't say, well, what we do is we curate our locations by theme as well. So I guess to a certain extent, we do over-index to certain industries. So Our space in White City, we've got 500 members over there who are all working in B2C or D2C businesses, so all consumer businesses. We've got a couple of venture hubs. We've got a challenger tech space in Shoreditch, a GovTech building. So I guess we are quite focused on building specific community infrastructures. But within, there's quite a range within that. So, it's not all focused at one industry. And then the support that we give them, we built a central team a couple of years ago that sits centrally and spans all of our locations, called Platform. And that team looks at Platform much how the venture capital industry does, which is how can we add value to the member businesses? How can we help them grow? And the kinds of services and products that we give them, as you said, is we don't invest ourselves, but we make lots of introductions to investors. We run the accelerator program. We consult with them specifically on their growth. We help them with hiring, with culture building, with talent retention, talent development, etc. So those are kind of a couple of examples of how we help the member businesses grow.
Great, very interesting. I'm going to move over to Jonathan for a sec. And you talked about Berlin and Amsterdam. So what was it about either of those locations that made you want to set your business up there? Or was it actually something about London, which I assume was your hometown, which made you also want to make the move?
It was a combination. So I was working in London in the property business at Savills. I was doing the graduate program, and I was in valuations and then in residential land sales. This was 2004 and 5. And the prices were going nuts. And it just seemed like it was a difficult place to carry on making money if I wanted to do it by myself. And everyone was talking about investing in Europe. Definitely people talking about Germany, Berlin. So it just, I just kind of had an interest in what other people were doing. And then was at the same time reading about this city, Berlin, where the art scene was amazing and the music scene was amazing, and everyone that went would come back after a weekend and say, I want to move there and it's so cheap, all this kind of stuff. So I just went there. I went there for a day. I set up some meetings to meet local agents there. And it seemed that the problem was a lot of people that were trying to buy there were flying in for a day, trying to buy stuff, and there was lots of problems that they were encountering. So I just kind of thought if I base myself there might be an opportunity. And that's what it is. So I just, I went back, quit my job, and then went out there about a month later. And it's 15 years later. So.
Wow, very, very bold.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about Amsterdam and why was that next? Why was that the next market that you wanted to move the business to? And, if you're looking over the next sort of 5-10 years ahead, are there more markets to come? And what's some of your frameworks that you think about when you're looking at these cities?
Amsterdam was a very similar kind of story. It was definitely based on location. I was flying between London and Berlin the whole time and happened to be flying over Amsterdam in that flight. So I was looking for one more place, and I didn't want it to be anywhere further east. And I just kind of thought about a couple of different places and ended up going on a bachelor party to Amsterdam one weekend and seeing that it was actually a very different city than I remembered from growing up, which was a lot of, I think the tourism in Amsterdam when I was growing up was about, smoking weed and et cetera, et cetera. So I saw that it had actually changed a lot. It had become quite sophisticated. And it was a similar thing. I flew there for the day, met with agents, started speaking. A lot of them were kind of quite negative about what was going on. It was just after we were coming out of the financial crisis. Right. And it was the same thing. I just started speaking and it seemed like, there could be some deals to be done. So went back quite a lot, and it took probably 6 to 8 months to do the first thing there. And then it just built up over the last 5 years now. And yeah.
And more cities come?
I have to find a place that's convenient. The thing that I look for mostly is livability. So I find that if it's a place that I want to live and I want to go and spend time there, then usually the tenants that we're catering to find the same thing. Right now, I don't know. I think I'm more focused on trying to bring myself back to London than looking for a new city at this point.
Okay.
You never know though.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask you both the same question because it's, it looks like we're all sort of straddling the flexible working world as well as residential market. And, over the last 4 months of lockdown, there has been millions of words written about the future of the office, how people are going to work coming out of this. Are people just going to be at their kitchen tables, avoiding city centres forever? And for someone that looks quite a lot at the office market, people are saying the office might be dead, or it might have lost its way. So, Gabby, I think starting with you as someone that's been pioneering this for the last 6 or 7 years, what's your view? Well, how do you think we're going to come out the end of this?
So I 100% don't think that the office is dead. I think that what the last few months have shown us is that we have such a need for authentic human connection. You see all these crazy stories now about all the stuff that's going on because people have literally been in isolation for the past 4 months. And I think that is testament to the case that as humans, we need that physical in-place connection with our co-workers, with our colleagues, with our friends, etc. And that is not going away. I've seen also, we're a team of 80 people, and we've had a really strong culture already, and so we've been able to maintain that culture over the period. But the businesses that I've seen that are just starting up and are really trying to develop this culture have found this a really tough time to do that in. I just think it's developing culture is a very tricky thing to do virtually. So no, I don't think the office is going away. But I definitely think that there will be more flexibility in how we choose and how we're able to work. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's long overdue. And with people being able to choose to work at home more, I think that the way that we can kind of lure them back into the offices is when the offices become a real experience. And we've kind of pushed the boundaries in that with Huckletree in the past. If you've been there, you've seen they're a bit hallucinogenic. But I think that the offices will need to be an experience. You'll need to arrive there and really feel like I'm here and it was worth getting on the tube and crossing London to get to, because it's amazing and I have all these amenities and, my day is infinitely more productive for me being here. So I think that is the opportunity and at the same time the threat against the office market. But I see it as a net positive. Yeah, no,
I tend to agree with all of that. And Jonathan, with some of your office assets, your commercial assets, what's the view where you are?
I also agree. I don't think the office is dead. I think the trends that we've been seeing for probably the last 10 years, things like flexibility and what they used to call hot desking, obviously working from home, things like paperless offices, increase in hygiene, all these things which were kind of happening anyway. I think this pandemic has acted as a catalyst. So things have been definitely sped up. But I think it's probably good. And I think that the amount of space people need might change. On one hand, they're not going to be packing in people to offices, I don't think. But at the same time, they might need more space per person. So you might not end up kind of needing less space. But we'll see. But I also agree. I don't think it's going to die. And I think places like Huckletree are probably the future of offices. So I think. Yeah. Gab did a good job a few years ago starting up.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll do one final question just on real estate or modern real estate. Is that co-living is something that has had a real spurt over the last couple of years here in London. I assume the same in Berlin and Amsterdam. And Gabby, I think with your experience in co-working, how do you see co-living maturing? Do you think it's something that is here to stay and will be adopted on a wider scale? And would you ever kind of branch out into that realm with your brand, or is it something that is just totally different and it's a different kind of mentality altogether?
It's a good question. The truth is, I don't know too much about the co-living market and industry, and perhaps that answers your question. It's not entirely on our radar of something that would be the logical next steps for us. I think our focus is really going deep on, again, technology, innovation, and helping those ecosystems to kind of grow and explode, and really encouraging entrepreneurship. So it's probably a better question for Johnny, but I think, from a personal perspective, I definitely see the value in co-living, and increasingly so as the property market becomes more and more expensive and more unattainable for first-time buyers, especially here. But it's not a model I've looked at in great detail. So, yeah.
And Johnny?
I don't love the co-living concept, and I don't think that this pandemic is going to help it particularly. We're already seeing that the demand for smaller units is dropping, and the demand for larger units with outside space, with a second room to work from, is definitely increasing. So I think if people can afford it, then that's what people are going to go for. But that's the question. I think it's all about affordability for the next few years. So we'll see. But yeah, generally, I'm not a massive fan of this kind of whole co-living idea.
Okay, well, yeah, there's plenty of it coming around in London. Okay, well, look, I will put property and everything like that to one side for a sec and talk more generally about kind of your lives and some of the things you do outside of work. And I guess the reason we're doing this and we've been brought together is through Marble Arch Synagogue and through Sam and the great program that he's rolled out over the last few months to keep us entertained. I just want to ask you both about Judaism broadly, what it means to you, and specifically the community and how that's played a part in your life so far. So Gabby, if you want to take one first.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's I wouldn't even know where to begin with answering it. I think for me, ever since I had my children, it has kind of really come full circle for me, in the sense that, bringing young people into the world, I'm suddenly very aware of the way that I want to raise them, and, brought right back to my childhood and the way that my parents chose to raise us. And just very conscious that I want to be able to pass on the knowledge and the traditions to them. And so Sam has done an amazing job with Alex Radin of creating the Cheder on Sundays, which my son has been going to. And it's a really wonderful kind of weekly ritual in our house that we all look forward to. And just hearing him, learning about everything and really the knowledge that they've built up over the past, he's been there 2 years, and the knowledge that they've built up over the past 2 years has been incredible. And so I guess that has been really, I consider myself a religious and a very spiritual person anyway, but really seeing it through my son over the past couple of years has been, from a different angle, probably one of the most beautiful things that I've been around or that I've seen. And so from that perspective, I'm really grateful for Marble Arch Synagogue.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear it's doing great things like Cheder. I remember it 20 years ago, more 25 years ago. Jonathan, same again for you. I'd love to hear a little bit about the community in Berlin and Amsterdam, where you're spending most of your time, how that differs and how it's sort of weaving within your lives.
The Berlin community is thriving. They've recently set up a kollel there where they've brought over a lot of Russian Jews that are all learning full time, and it's a thriving community, and I'm friendly with a lot of the people involved in that. Amsterdam is tiny in terms of a community, and it's not really in the center, everything's outside of it, so I'm not very involved in that. But last year I went to Yeshiva in Jerusalem for a year, so that was quite an impactful 12 months of commuting from a yeshiva in Jerusalem back to Berlin, back to Amsterdam, back to this yeshiva. And it's been a massive, now it's a massive part of my life. So I'm learning Gemara every morning for 3-4 hours, and which completely changes your brain in every respect. Keeping Shabbat is a game changer. Being able to turn your phone off for 25 hours is definitely a positive in the week. And yeah, there's just generally in the religion, there's a lot of ancient wisdom that I think we've been given as a gift, and it's kind of a shame if people aren't taking advantage of that, because it's all there. And there's a lot in London, and definitely Western Marble Arch. There's the facilities to be able to do what you want and to delve in. So it's important. I don't think there's anywhere like, maybe New York, but London's a great place to be a Jewish person at the moment. Yeah.
Great. And is yeshiva something you always wanted to do, or something that just came along quite
It was a
quickly?
moment of madness, I think. No, it's not really something I always wanted to do. It just came to me, and I was like, I'm just going to try. And sent one email. They phoned me about 30 seconds later, and I flew out there. Just, I thought I'll give it a few weeks and see what it's like. And it was, they hooked me, but in a good way.
Well, look, I won't keep you too much longer. I'll just end with one broad question. Is that you both set up your businesses some time ago with great success, and coming out of this crisis, it feels like it couldn't be a worse time to start a business. I'd just like to ask you, if anyone is thinking about it over the next year, what should they do it? What's some of the advice that you'd give them if you cast your mind back to when you kicked it off? I'll start with Gabby.
I actually think it's a great time to start a business. I think any kind of period of uncertainty where everything we knew previously changes is a moment where new trends and new habits and new behaviors emerge. So actually, if you can tap into them, and it's quite obvious to us what they are and how our lives have been changed over the past few months. Definitely, you've seen like a massive soar in e-commerce, and a trend towards being more mindful and really wanting to live more meaningful existences. I think if you can tap into those and build businesses off the back of that, then I think it's a really great time to start a business. And then also from a very practical side, there's a lot of talent on the market. So you can get really good talent and they don't come with the price tag that they may have come with 6 months ago. Agencies, other costs for businesses, likewise, you negotiate like good rates, set yourself up well for the next few years. So actually, and I spoke on a panel about this last week, I think it's a really good time to start a business right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Johnny?
I'm not so sure if it's the best time to start a business. I understand what you mean. I definitely think there are opportunities out there, but it's probably for the very, very kind of privileged few to be able to think like that. I think we're all lucky that we can think like that. And I think generally it's going to be very tough for people out there. At the same time, if you're going to do it, then, go for it. And you've kind of got nothing to lose at this point. So in that respect, it's, you have to look at the positives. So I'm sure people will do very well in this time of change, but it's going to be tough.
And the thing is also is that, a lot of people are being made redundant, have been put on furlough, but ultimately will be made redundant. And, after the recession in 2007, 2008, actually, funnily enough, that's what made the co-working industry explode, was because so many people lost their jobs and turned to entrepreneurship. So I don't know, Johnny, I think we have to agree to disagree.
Fine, no problem.
Well, thanks both for your time. I'll let you get back to your dinners and everything else. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to whatever the next week's installment is on this series, and I look forward to meeting you both soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Joseph.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gabby.
Bye. Bye.